no two seasons are created equal. It's been interesting so far this season. So if you're a fan of Vegas, you might be slightly panicked. Might be. And I've seen some panic on social media. And it's interesting because this is the second year for Vegas, and I when I made my predictions for the season, I said I don't expect them to get 109 points again. I expect them to fall back somewhat. It's unrealistic that the team would keep that up, and I understand that might have been taken as hating on Vegas or you're piling on and you're agreeing with them. Well, I also had Vegas at second in the division, and right now, it's a tough start to the season, and I'm going to get into why. And we need to look back to the first 10 games of last year. And I'm going with 10 because that's a larger sample size, and it shows just how amazing a run Vegas really had. So in game one, they beat Dallas on the road 2-1. So they open up the season on the road and they win. 45 saves on 46 shots for Marc-Andre Fleury. James Neal scored both goals. They beat Arizona in overtime 2-1, also on the road. Fleury, 27 saves on 28 shots. Your goals are from Neal and Schmidt. Then they get their home opener against Arizona, and they win 5-2. Fleury makes 31 saves on 33 shots. Neal with 2 more goals, meaning he had 5 already at that point. Englund, Lindbergh, and Nosek with the other goals for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now keep in mind, Dallas missed the playoffs. Arizona missed the playoffs. Arizona missed the playoffs. Next up, Detroit. They lose 6-3. Fleury makes 21 saves on 27 shots. Ends up hurt. Neal, Marchessault, and Howla with the goals for the Vegas Golden Knights. So after 4 games, Fleury's hurt. And that's it. We're all like, okay, well, that's it. They're done. Subban plays against Boston and, of course, beats Boston because that's what happens. Play against your former team, you're pretty inspired. 21 saves on 22 shots, so Boston didn't test him a whole lot either. Lindbergh, Shipachev, and Tuck. That's right. Remember Shipachev? He scored in that game. So Shipachev and Tuck, and there's Vegas now at 4-1. But notice these games are all at home, too. So Boston's the first playoff team from last year that they'd beaten. Then they beat Buffalo in overtime 5-4. Subban saves 30 out of 34. Perron with 2 goals. Lindbergh, Smith, and Tuck with goals as well. Then against St. Louis, still at home. That's why it's in black. 3-2 win in overtime. Subban makes 37 saves on 39 shots. Or 38 shots. Dansk comes in relief and saves 10 out of 11. Carlson, Miller, and Smith with the goals. So we're fully into this can't be happening at that point because Dansk is now in. Fleury and Subban are both hurt. We remember this because it just happened last year. They go to 7-1 with a win against Chicago. And I'm going to come back to this. They've only played one team that made the playoffs last year. At this stage, one. They beat Chicago 4-2. Dansk, 29 saves on 31 shots. Belmar, Carlson, Marchessault, and Nosek with the goals for Chicago. Now, to finish out that homestand, a 7-game homestand, where they lose 1 game. They win 7-0 against the Colorado Avalanche. Dansk saves all 32 shots. Goals are by Carrier, Eakin, Howla, Marchessault, Lindbergh, Neal, and Perron. Yes, Neal gets back on the board. He's already got 6. So they had this really nice long homestand. And when you look at the opponents they had, their toughest was Boston. Their second toughest would have been Colorado when you look at the overall season. You look at the end results at the end of the year, Colorado and Boston are the only teams in the playoffs they played against. They then went on the road for Game 10, and they lost to the Islanders 6-3. Dansk made 17 saves on 19 shots. Lagacé was called into action when Dansk got hurt, and this is when you get into the holy crap, what's going on? They're down to their number 4 goaltender. Carlson, Miller, and Tuck with the goals in that game. So Carlson didn't really get going until here. So I've been talking about how Carlson hasn't scored yet. Well, that's actually in line with last year. But let's get into this year. Okay, so that's last year's first 10. This year, they lose at home, their home opener, 5-2 to Philly. Fleury makes 11 saves on 16 shots, gets pulled. Subban comes in and makes 9 saves on 9 shots. Belmar and Marchessault with the goals for the Vegas Golden Knights. They then win on the road in Minnesota, 2-1 in a shootout. There are no shootouts their first 10 games last year. Fleury saved 29 out of 30, and Pacioretty with the 1 goal. Then they go to Buffalo. They lose 4-2. Buffalo they have here, they win 5-4. But this is on the road. Fleury saves 13 out of 17. Howla and Marchessault with the goals for Vegas. Then last night against Washington, they lose 5-2. Fleury makes 24 saves on 28 shots. Eakin and Smith with the goals for Vegas. So what's the biggest difference? Well, first off, they have 3 games to start the season out of 4 on the road. Last year they had 2 on the road, and then they had 7 at home. They are not done this road trip. They next go to Pittsburgh tonight. Then they go to Philly on Saturday. Then they come home. So I've got a line on here to demarcate that, yes, they're going home. Buffalo, Anaheim, Vancouver, and Tampa will be coming to town. Now, out of these 4, I look and I say, you know what? Buffalo's made a nice step forward, but this should be a winnable game for Vegas at home. Vancouver should be a winnable game for Vegas at home. And they know Anaheim. They know Anaheim pretty well. They should come out of that one with at least a point, probably 2. So I'm saying, you know what? They should get 6 out of 8 points there. This is easy to overcome. And the reason I'm putting up last year's is because people keep saying, well, it's early, it doesn't matter. Oilers fans said that last year too. The early part of the season absolutely does matter, as it mattered for Vegas. The emotional lift of everything that the city had gone through, and the fact that the team was part of that healing process, was huge to that fast start. They get off to that fast start. They're 3-1 at this point last year. They're 1-3 this year. That emotional start, they get off to an 8-2 start. 8-2, and from there they just cruised. They played really, really well. Even though they're down to the number 4 goaltender, they had some stumbles in there. They still, at the end of the day, were the best team in their division. It's not going to be as easy this year. They don't have that emotional lift. You can see it when they're out there. It's different. It just feels different. The next 2 games are big, because if they don't come out of Philly or Pittsburgh with a win, they go home with 1 win in their first 6 games, it gets really tough. Because now, this 5-game homestand they've got, because I'm just going with the first 10 games. Okay, I'm not going further than that. But that 5-game homestand is really important, because November 18th to December 17th, and I apologize for the fact the light's right in the way there. November 18th to December 17th, they play 11 out of 16 games on the road. They have to make hay at home while they're at home. And so far on the road, they're 1-2, and that 1 win was a shootout. And they were fortunate that Pacioretty scored with a little over a minute left in that game, because otherwise you might be looking at a situation where they're 0-4 or 0-3-1. Vegas needs wins, and the biggest issue they're going to have is they're playing a Pittsburgh team that's coming off of that rough loss to the Montreal Canadiens, and then they play a Philadelphia team that should, at the very least, be ornery from that 8-2 loss from San Jose, and it's the same team they already lost 5-2 against at home. So I'm not writing them off. I'm not saying that Vegas is in deep trouble, but you can't brush aside these 3 out of 4 losses and the fact that they haven't really held the lead this year and say, well, no, they'll be fine. Because Fleury is not putting up the same numbers that he did early last year before the injury. And they're not getting the same amount of goal scoring. Look, 2-2-2-2, 2-2, 5-3, and then 3-5-3, 4-7, 3. And this 2 here, that's a shootout goal, so I don't really count that. So really it's 2-1-2-2. So that's 7 goals scored in their first 4 games, as opposed to 12 in their first 4 games last year. So it's going to be a tough go. I know Gerard Gallant can get that out of them. I know that this is a team that has the manpower to do it. I don't put a lot of this on Nate Schmidt being out. Yes, losing Nate Schmidt for the first 20 games hurts. Not this much. It doesn't take you from 3-1 to 1-3. There's a lot of factors in this, and Vegas is going to have to muster up the energy and the emotion. The emotion doesn't seem to be there right now. It just doesn't. It was there all year last year. It was almost unstoppable until they met Washington in the final, but it was pretty darn near unstoppable. It's going to be interesting because, again, I'm going to Vegas around Christmas time, and I intend to see a couple of games then. And it'll be interesting to see where they're at then. And no matter whether it's a good record or it's a bad record, I'm really excited about going down and watching some games live. Because here's the one thing. Whether they win or they lose, at the end of the day, the fan support will be there. As much as people say, oh, it won't be there. It'll be there. And it is still very, very early. There's still 78 games left to be played. It's just interesting to watch and see how the schedule is different this year from last year. Philly was a playoff team last year, so was Minnesota, and so was Washington, obviously. Pittsburgh, playoff team. Here's Philly again, a playoff team. Anaheim was a playoff team last year, as was Tampa. So on paper, it looks like the schedule is much more difficult than last year, and they have to soldier through it. So there you go. Because it is one thing that I mentioned a few times last year that it felt like Vegas' schedule was really built so that they could get on nice winning streaks at home. And this 7-game homestand right near the start of their existence was perfect. It's exactly what they needed. And now they need a 5-game homestand where they win, I'll say 4. They have to win 4 out of 5 on that homestand. And they need to win at least 1 out of the 2 against Pittsburgh or Philly. But it's early. I'm not piling on. I'm just taking a look at where we're at and where we were. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.